Hi, this is Rachel from Ray K Books, and today I'm going to be interviewing Charles Blackstone. Hello, Charles.
Oh, Rachel, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So today we are going to be talking about your newest book, Vintage Attraction. Can you please tell people what that's about, like a little synopsis?
Oh, sure. Basically, I had a really good one once that I would use, like the one sentence. But basically, it's a story about a guy that's kind of gotten lost in academia, somebody who maybe has gotten one too many master's degrees, who kind of, imagines some kind of more interesting life for himself, but hasn't quite figured out how to find it. And then one day, he stumbles into the world of food and wine when he meets when he discovers a sommelier, a TV sommelier, and then decides he should meet her, and then they do meet and become entwined, and so he discovers, maybe I shouldn't give away too much. He kind of comes closer to figuring out a place for himself in the world, as does the sommelier, who have it all, as they say. Some people say.
Nice. So thank you for that synopsis.
It's a
And
terrible synopsis. I should have just read from the jacket flap, but I didn't.
that's fine. It's good. It was a good one. Okay, so we're gonna get into Twitter questions. And for those of you who are watching, if you'd like to ask a question, and I will ask it to Charles, please go onto Twitter and use the hashtag CharlesLiveChat, and I will ask him those questions. So the first one is from Lisa, and she asks, "What's one of your things about the writing process?"
like like a rule or
Just
something.
something
Just a
that you like
thing.
about the writing.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a really good question. I like that it is a process. I'm not really interested in anything that can be done quickly, I think, in life. So I like that it does take a long time, that I like drafting. There are other things that, when, like kids first begin, or kids, like college students, like the one draft mentality that a lot of people have. And I think that the internet has also, given rise to this, like just do it and put it out there and it's done. That's never been my thing, really. I always think like there's more to be done, which is probably why I didn't go into something like, woodworking, or, I didn't become a chef, because there, you sort of do, you do have a process, but you do have an end result, and you don't typically go back to it and rethink it. Whereas drafting, up until something's published, and then um, typically up until that point, but not always, you are able to continue to, in the true sense of the term, revise. You're able to re-see, and so I think that's exciting about it. And I wouldn't want to do anything where there was the expectation that it was to be done perfectly all at once. So I can't think of a good professional analogy, but maybe like a magician. You kind of have, or anybody performing on stage. You kind of have one chance, and to do it, and that's it. Whereas that's not the case in writing, and shouldn't be. And so I think that's what's exciting, that it is a process.
Are you doing NaNoWriMo this month?
No. I've never done that. I don't. I mean, maybe like the 15-year-old me could have been into that, but yeah, I mean, I know they don't require you to do. Well, and their definition of a novel is certainly a lot fewer words than the rest of our definitions. And of course, although it's funny, I do know, I do know a lot about the publishing business side of things, both from working at Bookslut, and just from having published books. So I know a lot of agents do. When is it? It ends November 1st, right? Is it?
Yeah, it
Is it
ends at the end of the month, November
this month?
30th.
Oh, okay. It goes through November. Yeah. So like the first few weeks of December, you hear a lot of agents saying like, I'm getting these queries about these, drafts that clearly, need to go through a lot more revision before they should be seen by anybody. And so, um, but I know they don't stress, like that it's, or give people the expectation of like, here's something that's to be done. And a lot of people would argue that deadlines are good and setting goals. But no, I've never. How long has it been going on? Is it like 10 years?
Since 1999, I think.
Oh, God. So yeah, I mean, I know I've been familiar with it for a while, and but no, never gotten close to it. I know now they have a lot of like there's a site, like you can become a member and things and track things, but that's no, I don't know. Maybe I was never working on anything interesting in the month of November to participate in something like that. But yeah, for people that find it useful, I mean, why not? It's not for me.
So, you said that I know this, you work at Bookslut. So, what do you do at Bookslut exactly? And what is it for people who don't know what it is?
Bookslut is, I like to say, one of the first. I mean, literally, it's one of the first. I like to say one of the best online book review sites around. It was founded in 2002, so it literally has been around a lot longer than most of the others. It's read internationally. It's gotten it's well known. A lot of people read it. A lot of people contribute to it. We have contributors, in the U.S. and a number of other countries, and it's hard to categorize it otherwise because it's the books we review are they're books that are hard to categorize. We don't do a lot of well reviewed books that are talked about, but a lot of the small press and indie press, university press books that are being published and aren't getting a lot of notice, we tend to cover. And it's what I do is I deal with the contributors mostly and the publicists at the publishing houses, and so I like to say I make sure that there's content each month that we publish, and been doing it for about over 3 years now, and so I have not while I've been in this position, there has not been an issue that has not had at least some content. So I feel like I'm successful that way so
So,
far.
being an author, how has that changed your time at Bookslut?
I the Bookslet work. It's I mean, there's a lot there. Well, there's a lot to do at a certain point in the month because I deal with a lot of the like close to the deadline stuff and the copy editing. So I mean, that takes some more time at a certain point toward the end of the month. The rest of the month, I'm answering emails and things that can be done. Um, things I like to do throughout the day, but that if I'm keeping up with them, don't take so much time. So when I have been working on other stuff, it hasn't been difficult to balance it all. And in fact, having I don't say distraction, but having the other thing to do, on either side, other than the draft of whatever I'm working on, or being able to step away from the booklet stuff into a draft has been helpful, and then being able to leave a draft and go answer some Bookslut emails or get an issue together, has also been helpful because, sometimes the uninterrupted time is beneficial to either, and then other times, you kind of need the interruption to get you going, I think, a little faster, more efficiently. So it hasn't been too difficult to balance so far.
So, we're going to go back to Twitter questions.
Twitter.
Yep. Jonathan asks, do you think book reviewers' opinions matter?
That's an interesting question also. I don't think they matter, really. There are, well, in the sense that, like with anything else, that one opinion, stands in for an experience or a potential experience. So, I go to the analogy of restaurant reviews, and there certainly is thanks to the internet, quite a spectrum from professional reviewers, New York Times, people have been reviewing restaurants, in a professional, and by that I mean rigorous way, and for quite some time, or at least sort of endorsed by whatever publication has been in business for quite some time to then lend that some kind of credence. And then you have Yelpers, that are trained by no one, and come to the table literally, figuratively, with no special knowledge or experience, or way of you know kind of distilling an experience into some kind of assessment. And so the same goes on with books now. You get all sorts of opinions from the overly you know kind, which I guess is not a bad thing, to the unnecessarily cruel sometimes, just because people are always looking for like a voice on the internet or in a publication. Especially publications are kind of dying away. They need something to kind of grab the last few people that are interested in, and negative stuff tends to get more attention. So I don't know, but as a reader, and as a diner, back to my restaurant analogy, I've never read anything about any restaurant. I've never read anything about any book that's changed my mind about it, whether it was something that like that's kept me away from something. I still always kind of want to find out for myself. So I think if book reviews are encouraging people to go check out the book, bad reviews or good reviews, then I think they're worthwhile. But if they're it is some kind of means of, like an Amazon review of a product, like, oh, well, this guy didn't like it, so I don't want to buy that, then I don't know. I feel like it's certainly not how I read, so I feel then they're just doing a disservice to readers.
Do you read bad reviews of your own books?
Yeah, I do. I think you said of my own work, it sort of it ate your last part of that. I do. Some people claim not to. I don't really believe that, but if you asked, should authors do that, I'd say probably not. Like, what's the point? But I do. I don't know. I'm a Googler like everyone else, so they're hard
Awesome.
to miss. Yeah.
So Carolyn asks, how closely does vintage attraction resemble your own life?
It I mean, well, the nice thing about a book, I think, or like taking experience from life and putting it into a narrative, is that it lives in that initial state or wherever you grabbed it, indefinitely. And then life, obviously changes, and you know, I think people know that much, but people think that their recollection of life, like previous life, past experiences, remains unchanged by the experiences to come. So I I recognize parts of myself from a distant time, in some of the scenes, and some of the characteristics of the characters, um, and things I'd experienced. But I don't feel much of it looks like me now. Maybe some of the the main character is sort of like this odd like recovering academic that isn't I don't know, isn't quite one with the world around him. So I can still sometimes relate to some of that. I always thought you know that I was doing better in life than the character was, which was interesting. But yeah, you see, I guess sort of like like old pictures, like you vaguely recognize yourself, but at the same time, it's also not you. And actually, to carry out the photographic analogy, you recognize yourself, but also you know that you were sitting here and that that's a picture creation and representation. So um, I know the experiences both are in my past and also sort of have been shaped to suit the needs of the characters. So I don't often see I'm conditioned not to look for it. I know there's less familiar with the material or kind of more into making those kinds of connections do see them more, but I don't. So it always I always have to kind of remind myself that it is kind of loosely based on life when I describe the book or read from it, talk about it. So
Great. So well, this isn't a question. Well, it kind of is. Now we're gonna play a game called
okay.
Would You Rather. Yes, it's a fun game. So, would you rather, if you don't know what that is, I would ask Charles here something like, would you rather eat apples or oranges for the rest of your life? And then he'd have to pick either apples or oranges, except this is literature edition. So, the
Can
first
I
would you rather question,
can I
if
answer the apple or orange one first?
sure, if you want.
I'd say apple's a lot easier to eat. Less, like you don't have to peel them if you don't want to. Um, you
Plus,
know.
there's apple pie.
Well, yeah. If I had to, cook with, then yeah, you'd have that. Oranges, I mean, it's just a little more work, and I don't like seeds, but yeah. Well, you have to work around the seeds more. Maybe depends on the cutlery available to me in this. But anyway, that's not what we're here to talk
That's
about.
fine. That's fine. Thank you for answering that question. I was wondering. So,
I needed to get prepared for the game, so now I feel ready. So.
okay, good. Okay, good. So the first one is, would you rather read a book that is written poorly but has an excellent story, or read one with weak content but is written well?
I think that actually is like the question of our times right now. That's really the issue I think that is confronting literature right now. I mean, maybe I feel particularly aware of it now, but yeah, people aren't. Dare I say, I don't think people are that into the telling anymore as much as the content. I think that it's funny to me. I remember hearing long ago. I don't know when I started noticing it, but well, I mean, probably when I was, first considering myself like writing seriously, probably in college or something. But you'd hear like the term like well written, and that to me always meant something going on the sentence level, and that I've seen people use that, as the years went on, you continue to hear people say like this is so well written, and at some point I started to realize that I don't think these people knew like or these people's definition of well written was not what I had in mind, and I think what they were talking about was like interesting story, you know, um, compelling telling of something going on, and we're just using the term writing to mean well they read it on paper, so
That's
and
not what I
yeah.
mean. That's not
It's
my question.
well, but but the idea of what you read for, I think people are reading for story, and I think that's very important. I came up with a new concept recently, an equation maybe, um, but that I would tell to students of writing and actually have mentioned in sometimes some talks that I've given in front of writing classes, but that writing exists. Are you ready for this? Writing exists at the intersection of can be told and should be told. So the should be told stuff is like the interesting story, the conjoined triplets and how they were able to be, separated and go on to lead, wonderful lives as individuals. Like that's, the stuff of news and the things that capture people's attention, on the basis of story. And the can be told is in terms of writing, like, can you tell it? Do you have the voice of the character? Do you have the data? Do you have the ability to pull it off? So, you often encounter also people that say like, I had this life experience and it's so exciting and so interesting, or I have the novel written in my head. And the people that write, know that that means nothing. Like it's, can you get it onto the page and can you do that well? So, what was the original question? Like, which is more important?
No,
I
would you
mean,
rather read a book that is written?
oh yeah. Um, I'm answering as me, I think. I guess. Well, I'm conflicted on that, but these days, I think I would say, can I go in the middle, sort of? I mean, I don't know. I think my instinct right now is probably more on the side of the writing doesn't matter as much to me. And this is just as a reader, when I'm not reading, to learn, craft, as many of us, should be reading when working on something. I don't know. Lately, I'm more drawn into just interesting story, but I hate to say that because I feel like maybe that accounts for some of the books that I've begun reading in recent times and had to put down. Maybe the writing just isn't holding my interest, and I do still read I think on the sentence level, you know, really primarily. So I'm in the middle on that one. Maybe a little more on the side of story and
All right.
plot.
The next one. That was the longest answer out of that question I've ever had. Out of like
Sorry.
70 authors I've talked to. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm a thinker. I have to think it through.
No, that's fine. I like your answer. I'm just saying that was like so.
You tell these people I didn't get to consider these questions ahead of time. That might have helped a more concise response, but I don't
No, no, I like it. You
know.
on that one.
Thank
So
you.
anyway, the next one is would you rather write novels where all the characters are women or all men for the rest of your writing career?
That's another hard one to answer. I wouldn't. I don't think of. I don't see differences along gender lines really in the characters I write, so it wouldn't bother me either way. Maybe there'd be more Lord of the Flies quality to the writing if I didn't get to have, the interaction between males and females that you're allowed if you're not limited. But I think my characters are interesting, and I think any characters of other people that I read that are interesting don't really like adhere to what we imagine are the differences. So I'd be happy with either. But if I had to choose, I probably take the female characters. I think it would be more fun.
All right. And then the next one is would you rather write a book without using conjunctions or have every sentence of your book begin with one?
Um, I was getting a text message with a picture of me on the chat. Where's the camera? So it's
No.
distracted. Should keep those ringers off during these things. Um,
Do you want me to repeat the question?
no, I'm thinking it over. The way I write and the way I think everybody should is not. That would be a hard thing to take on. Well, I guess similar to the other one, but I mean I believe that it's the characters and the story that give us style and sentence structure, and so it'd be hard to determine that without knowing like who is the character who would have to narrate that way. But I could imagine either going on, and I'll go with the conjunctions just because the other scenario would have me leaving them out entirely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like a conjunction, so
All right. Would you rather write a plot twist you hated or write a character you hated?
I'd say I'd rather write a character I hated just because plotting, eh, I don't know. I feel there's more you can do with the character you hate, and yeah, I'd probably find myself liking the character I hated over the course of writing because, here we are locked in this thing together. But yeah, I'd start with character.
All right.
It should be my little card, which I don't have a little card. Start with character.
And then the next one is, would you rather a super successful movie be made from one of your books or a long-lasting television series?
That's a really good question. I like television more than I like film, so I'd go with TV. Either way, it'd probably be a nice scenario. But yeah, I think TV. I think TV these days, especially, has more. I mean, literally, longer life. I mean, you get something on TV for 5 seasons. The movie that. You said Did you say blockbuster movie? I still feel like a movie has a shorter shelf life, even if it does really well at the time. Versus TV. And I like the idea of TV too. Is I feel like TV is more. I feel it's more in line with the process of writing characters in fiction. That they are just allowed to do small things, and not necessarily always something that's you know big screen worthy, but just the smaller moments, and within those come interest and humor and things like that. So TV. About
And
TV.
then the last one is, would you rather critics rip your book apart publicly or never talk about it at all?
I'm pausing to think also. I mean, obviously, I mean, the point of the whole publishing, I separate that from writing. The point of publishing is to engage others. So evidence of that is probably the book review. And so I would say I'd rather have them, than not have them, at all. How did that go?
And
That's it.
that concludes our Would You Rather game.
It was a good
So
game. I hope I won. At
you
least,
did one. You got a
or,
gold star.
oh,
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we're nearing the end of the chat,
It's,
but there's
yeah,
a lot of Twitter questions left. So are you willing to stay an extra like 10, 20 minutes?
yeah, I have forever for you and for
Okay. Well,
the
thank
Twitter
you.
people.
That's
Yeah.
so nice. All right. So Vicky asks, what is the best advice you can give writers currently going through the agent querying process?
I would say this is my standard advice would be, like learn everything you can, read about the process. Not very, when I was getting into it, I don't I don't think there was anything online. You have to go actually look at books to tell you about these things. Now people are using those less, and there are certainly a number of zillions of internet resources to address these things. But I'd refine that slightly for our purposes today and say I would go to people that have done it before successfully. I think that's key also. There are a lot of sites and chat about that process from one person who has not seen success with it to another person that has not seen success with it. Those people don't have anything valuable to say about it. Sorry, but that's true. There's commiseration is nice, but sometimes you want something. You want somebody that has succeeded. And I think I've been dissing the internet a little today, but one of the things that we do have access to, that everybody has access to that we didn't before, was authors. You don't have to necessarily be in New York or be in a city or be a grad student to have access to published authors to ask, what did you do and how did it work? On that too, I think something that the process really depends on is connections. So, again, you get those connections in grad school, or you hope to. I think they're available to people that are just smart about it and savvy about the process. I mean, Facebook, you know,
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn I think would be a little less good in this case, just because I mean, when I think of LinkedIn, I think work professional, so unless you're looking to like be an intern for an editor or something, but I feel like Facebook, people that some people would be opposed to that, like, I'll never read a Facebook message. You send me a Facebook message, I'm going to answer it. I don't care who sends it. I just do that, and a lot of other people do also. And I think those are ways. I mean, certainly, like building any relationship. I mean, like Match.com. I mean, you can't just run into a relationship being like, "Hey, I want all the information you have." But by following people on Twitter and Facebook friends, or the people that are more pedantic about it, and only like fan pages and fans, but interacting with these people and getting to know them, quote unquote, like via their posts and things and Instagram. I feel like then comes the time, like after you've engaged in a, less kind of official, yeah, after you've engaged in a less official capacity for a long enough time, I think then somebody might say. Now, again, there's tact, and there's a, protocol that, I don't know. I like to think nobody had to tell me, like, you wouldn't just send a manuscript off or just say like, here, I want you to read this, but you'd kind of just work things in, subtly, I think. I don't think anybody would tell me that, but maybe people do need to hear that sometimes. Like, yes, you don't just say, hey, I want an agent, here's this manuscript, but you kind of see if you can get a conversation going about it and see where that goes. But yeah, a lot of people make a lot of mistakes with that. Like, I know a lot of agents. I've had some agents. I have a good agent now, but I know what they receive, and I feel like similarly, I get a lot of, not agent queries at Bookslip, but I get queries from a variety of different people, all along the spectrum of experience, that want book reviews, and I think it's the same sort of thing. Like, who the person is, who the publication is, and especially if you have a connection or have done something noteworthy in your life, your professional life at some point, you have a better chance. And those are things that I think people need to take into consideration. Like we think, I took a few writing classes, or I went to grad school, I'm 20 whatever, and now I'm ready. Maybe you're not. These are things you have to think about a little more carefully. And I'm laughing because again, I feel myself entering into your category of longest answer ever. But at least I'm 2 for 2 or 2 for 20 or something. I don't even remember what the other part was. So that's a good point to end that answer. Learn everything you can before going at it.
And so another question is from Jill, and she says, you recently moved from Chicago, the setting for Vintage Attraction. How has this move to New York City affected your writing or reading?
How has it? I think it's too soon to tell as far as the writing goes. I haven't done anything like long form. I've done a couple of, I did a book review for a newspaper and some stuff for the Fiction Writers Review online since being here. And I like to think that there's, like good stuff in the air that, is affecting me. Yeah, but it's funny. It's funny looking at parts of, I'd always written all this Chicago stuff and lived in Chicago, and it's funny, like just flipping through, the novel and seeing some Chicago references, and being able to remove a different kind of remove from interesting to me.
And so, sorry, you kind of froze up a little.
Oh,
Um,
sorry.
no, it's not you, it's my internet connection. All right, and so the next question, well, actually, it's a statement. Rebecca says, looking good in that green tie.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so another one. This is from Lil, and she asks, what was the best book review you have read recently?
Of my own stuff, or I best book review recently. I don't know. I mean, I've read book reviews recently. I don't know that I've thought about them past reading them. I do remember. Um, I'm trying. Man, that's a difficult one. I remember, well, I mean, what the thing that comes to mind, and this was obviously not recently, but like in 2002, I remember reading a review of the book Elizabeth Wurtzel had out at that time, a memoir, and it was a very negative review. And I mean, this kind of ties into what we were talking about earlier. I remember reading this as a grad student in Boulder, and I don't think I even read, I knew who she was. I hadn't read any of the other books. And I read this review and I was like, this is a quote unquote bad review, but everything it's attacking is stuff that I like in a narrative. So it's like, would I then like this book? And in fact, I did, and then went on to read her other books and become quite a fan of her stuff. So that's yeah, maybe the most recent memorable book review, was like 12 years ago. But that felt like a moment for me, at a kind of a time when I think I didn't have as clear a sense of what reviews did and what they didn't do and how they should be taken on. So I mean that I think that's the answer I would give to that question, and I would insert a more current title than the one I referenced. A book called More Now Again, I would recommend for anybody who hasn't read it or Elizabeth Wurtzel.
Thank you for that recommendation. All right, so the last question I'm going to ask, actually there's two more, but the last Twitter question I'm going to ask is from Vicky, and she says, what's the one piece of writing advice you have received that is essential to your process?
I'm pretending that it's a technical delay, but it's another one that requires thought. Um, Recently, I mean, I think it has to. I think it ties into. I don't know that I received it as much as came up with it, and that equation of mine about the can be told and should be told. I mean, I think that's obviously born out of my recent experiences. I mean, both having what I thought was a story to tell, and then sort of presenting it to the world and finding out maybe that wasn't enough or wasn't quite right for that. So if I dare quote myself and say, I think that's something that I am always aware of, and or should always be aware of, and try to always be aware of. That just because I have an idea that seems good to me, and this probably goes against what a lot of people say. It's like that idea of like, well, if you're interested in it, and you're a reader, then that means there must be one other out there. I don't know if that's enough anymore, at least not for me, to want to invest the time and energy and into a project that just that it interests me. I think you need a little more than that. And so similarly, I have to always evaluate what are my abilities and what are my interests, because without the interests, I don't think you can really call the abilities into action. And conversely, just with interest, I don't know that means you automatically have the ability to pull off whatever it is you want to pull off. So yeah, it certainly is not advice for a NaNoWriMo month, but I think what we tell a lot of people getting into things is just go with your heart, or go with whatever, it'll all work out. I think a little more forethought is in order, maybe. So that's my advice to me, or something.
Great. Thank you for that advice to yourself.
Yeah,
And plus it will help other people as well.
I think so.
Sure. So my last question is, now this is going to be on YouTube forever. So your fans are going to be watching this maybe down the line, year, 2 years. What is one thing you wish to say to all your fans and followers?
Tell your friends to be my fan and follow me more. I have really good as evidenced by many of those questions, some good supporters. And so, pass it along, pay me forward or something. Always take more.
Great. And so that concludes our chat. But now I'm going to be talking about the giveaway that's going to happen. There's a giveaway going on. This is for USA people only. Sorry, Canada and international, maybe next time. And this ends, yep, there is, wait, hold on. There's the book, Vintage Attraction. It's beautiful. I love the cover. So in order to win, this live chat thing is going to become a YouTube video. And when it's a YouTube video, I'd like you to go to the video and comment a way to contact you if you've won. And then the second thing, this is optional because not everybody has Twitter, is to follow Charles on Twitter, and I will put his username in the description when I can. And if you do follow him, please put your Twitter username in the comments so I can verify the entry. I think I said this ends the 17th, which is next Monday. And then let me think if there's anything else. Nope, that's it. So, yeah, and there's 5 copies to be given away, which is amazing. So thank you to the publisher and to Charles, because this is going to be signed. And that's it. Thank you so much, Charles, for this chat. I had a wonderful time talking with you.
I'm so glad that we got to do this. I hope I wasn't. Yeah, we got to edit some of it down, but I don't know. We were chatting. We were chatting.
We were chatting. It was wonderful.
I had wine, so.
I'm glad. All right, so thank you so much, and goodbye.
It was fun to be here.